You think I killed them? Did I abandon them? Oh, sweetie. They're alive and well. Wacky Wars is back, baby! Welcome to episode 4, where I cover all the weird, short, and pointless wars in human history. Today, we'll look at the Cod Wars that happened in the second half of the 20th century between Iceland and the UK. And when I say wars, well, that's an exaggeration. But first, some background. Iceland gained independence from Denmark after World War II. Due to its location and terrain, natural resources were sparse, and so the new republic based their economy on fishing. The waters around the island were rich in cod and herrings, and so other countries often sailed in the area to grab some. In 1952, Iceland declared a 4 nautical mile exclusive economic zone, but in 1958 they extended it to 12 nautical miles. And that's where other countries started to notice, in particular the UK. During the war, Icelanders were catching and shipping cod to Britain, and now, suddenly, they started keeping it to themselves. That was unacceptable to the Brits, who immediately called up their navy to Okay. I'm getting ahead of myself here. But, nevertheless, the First Cold War had begun. Nobody accepted Iceland's 12 nautical mile claim. The British did indeed call up their navy, not to blow Reykjavik into pieces, but to protect British trawlers, who, in the eyes of Iceland, illegally entered their waters. All Iceland had to defend and patrol their coasts were 6 patrol vessels, against 17 British destroyers. However, Iceland pulled a diplomatic card from their sleeve. They threatened to withdraw from NATO if the Brits didn't retreat. Britain, not wanting to upset a major global power like the US, had to concede. In March 1961, Britain officially recognized Iceland's 12 nautical mile claim. In return, Iceland would allow the British to fish there in certain months. Cold War I ended with Icelandic victory. On September 1st, 1972, Iceland extended their maritime limits again, this time to 50 nautical miles. This upset practically everyone, most notably Britain and West Germany. But this time, Iceland had a plan. Anytime a British shipping trolley was doing its duties in the Icelandic waters, the Icelandic Coast Guard would use a net cutter to cut off the fishing nets the Brits were using. Britain responded by sending in the Royal Navy. The two fired warning shots and started ramming into each other. On August 29, 1973, the only reported fatality of the war was confirmed. An engineer doing maintenance was electrocuted because all the ramming caused the flooding of Icelandic patrol ships. Less than a month later, Iceland pulled out the NATO card again, as the Secretary General of NATO arrived in Reykjavik to negotiate. On October 3rd, the Royal Navy was recalled, and on November 8th, an agreement limiting the British fishing rights within Icelandic waters was signed. Cold War II, Icelandic victory. But every agreement has its expiration date. And this one was no different. In 1975, the British fishermen came again in droves. In response, Iceland declared their EEZ to be 200 nautical miles. And by now you know the drill. The navy was sent, warning shots fired, ramming, Iceland pulling the NATO card by threatening to close a base in Keflavik, Britain eventually conceding. But here Iceland went a step further. In February 1976, they broke off diplomatic relations with the UK. A few months later, in NATO-mediated negotiations, an agreement was reached. Iceland keeps their 200 nautical miles, while Britain could fish there with tight restrictions. Iceland, free. United Kingdom, 0. Iceland and Britain eventually restored relations, and they all lived happily ever after. Well, at least Iceland did, cause British fisheries suffered a massive hit. Anyway though, like and subscribe if you enjoyed this wild return of Wacky Wars. Thank you for watching and see you in the next one.